Go to your settings.
Yeah, no, I checked my settings. I'm on Wi-Fi of the show. Okay, Ruvain, good to see you up. You feeling better, I hope. You're muted, so I can't hear you. Okay, we're gonna start. I had to go back towards the base medrash to get on.
But I'm feeling better.
Great,
Every day, thank God, a little better.
good. What was my of their 50th anniversary? A week of learning by David and Sharon Carpel, Rabbi Tzvi and Robin Carpel, in memory of David and Tzvi's mother, Malka Bas Mordechai. Dr. Mark Scher, in memory of his father, Mordechai ben Menachem Manish. Ruth Kostner, in memory of her husband, Shmuel ben Yitzchak. Carol and David Kaplan, in memory of Hannah and Ron Goldberg's daughter, Tamar Yenta bat Yerachmiel Yitzchak. Day of Learning plus Torah Fund today by Carla Gross, in memory of her mother, Miriam bat Avraham. Also a day of learning today by Barbara and Sandy Cohen, in memory of her mother, Hudya bas Avraham Cohen. Marty and Joel Walensky, in memory of her father, Shmuel Yehuda ben Yosef. Cheryl and David Wiskowski, in memory of her mother, Malka Chaya bas Mordechai Halevi. May Shamas have an Aliyah, Crank Rafia, Velti Yeshua Shem Ataliah, and L'chol B'nai Israel, a good yar.
And they.
Okay. So today's Gemara, where we'll finish the parak, is one that basically, sorry, is comes back to our, so to speak, general topic, okay? But at the same time, is going to move on to some new material with the new parak, okay? Our current parak, as we concluded, okay, Sam? All right, our current parak, as we're concluding, okay, gave us this whole discussion on Isur, right? Whether it was Isur Kolel, Isur Mosif, okay, Isur Vatechat, all of these kinds of things. We seem, we seem to be finishing that up, as we did sort of on the bottom of Lamed Dalet Amud Beis, where basically the Gemara told us, okay, that there were other situations, where women would need to wait 3 months, okay, before remarrying, okay? And what about the difference between some exceptions to that, like a convert or a Canaanite female servant that had been freed, things like that? What about a Jewish minor? The Gemara comes back and says, well, what in that situation? Would she have to wait? No, it's not a case of miyun, wouldn't be a case of gittin, things like that. So all of those things were other examples until finally the Gemara tells us at the very bottom, Lamed Daled, Amud Beis, where we finished, why would this minor, so to speak, Jewish girl need to wait? Perhaps she was involved in some promiscuous activity. And then the Gemara on top of Lamed Hey comes back and says to us, basically, Gazru Rabbanan Ketana Mishum Gedola, that the rabbis made a gezerah, they made a decree, right, that it would apply, since it could certainly apply to a more mature Jewish girl, okay, who nevertheless, if she had promiscuous behavior, could still marry but not a Kohen, okay? Nevertheless, she could marry an Israelite. Is that really what we want to hear? No, says the Gemara, right? And that's where we're going to pick up. On top line of Lamed Hey Amud Aleph, where the Gemara says, Mi Gazrinan Katana Mishum Gedola. Who is it that would make such a decree that a minor Jewish girl would have to wait because of the concern about more adult, okay, or more mature Jewish girls? Vahatnan, aren't we taught in the following, says the Gemara, okay? Im hayuk tanot she'enan ru'uyot leleid, if they are minors that are not suitable or fit to give birth, right? Machzirino tomiyad. Our Mishnah taught that explicitly. Okay, right? They can return right away. Exactly, right? Amar Rav Gidl. Okay, says Rav Gidl. Amar Rav in the name of Rav. Hora'at sha'ah haita. It was only a temporary decree. Why? Miklau dahave. Okay, so the Gemara asks, is that really possible? Would the rabbis really make zerot under temporary conditions? We know that the rabbis only make decrees if it's a more common situation. Is this so common that minor Jewish girls are promiscuous and potentially get pregnant? But it was similar, says the Gemara, to a temporary situation, right? Okay, and then the Gemara tells us what happens, okay, and the opposite is not common, right? Right, so that's the point. So Lishna Achrina Amrela, and they said this learning in a different language, in a different way. Namely, what was Shmuel really saying? Amar Shmuel, Kulan tzrichot lahamtin shlosha chodashim. All women need, in other words, under certain circumstances, generally we say all women need to wait, okay, before a remarriage, 3 months or so. Chutz megioret, with the exception of the convert, umishuchreret gedola, or an adult Canaanite servant woman that has been freed. So the Gemara is going to have some questions now. Aval, notice it's in parenthesis, so a problem with the Girsa. Katana bat Yisrael, einat tzricha lahamtin shlosha chodashim. So according to Shmuel, a Jewish minor girl, okay, would not need to wait the 3 months. Okay, b'mai, what are we talking about? Ibamiyun, if we're talking about a situation of her having refused, right? Ha'amra Shmuel chadazimna. Didn't Shmuel say this at earlier time, another time? Baget, if we're talking about it being done where there was a situation where we received a get, Haka Amar Shmuel Debaye. Here, didn't Shmuel say that it was necessary? The Amar Shmuel, as Shmuel said, Mianabo, if she refused him, Einat Tzricha Lahamtin Shlosha Chadashim. She is not required to wait 3 months. Natan la get, if however the husband gave her a get, Tzricha Lahamtin Shlosha Chadashim. Here she does have to wait the 3 months. Okay? So what's the issue? Ela biznut. But rather maybe we're talking about an issue of promiscuity. Uznut b'katana lo shchiach, says the Gemara. But such promiscuity among minor, particularly Jewish girls, that's not common. Okay. However, says the Gemara continuing, gioret u'mishuchreret. When we were talking about exceptions, like a convert or a Canaanite adult woman being freed, the shchiach bahozenut, isn't it fairly common that there's promiscuity among them? Okay, ligzor. So let the rabbis then make the decree and say that they too would need to have to wait the 3 months. If the whole reason for the decree is promiscuity. So the Gemara continues, Hu da'amar k'Rabbi Yossi. Then this is what would seem according to the view of Rabbi Yossi, the Tanya, as taught elsewhere in a Braita, Hagioret v'hashvua v'hashifcha. Okay, the convert and the woman who had been captured, imprisoned. Okay, remember we're talking also pirates would often capture, okay, and hold for ransom. Okay, so that would be the, in their time, the classical example. Okay, right? Vahashifcha, and in this case also the Canaanite servant woman, shenifdu, that they were redeemed, v'shenit gairu, or they converted, v'shenich nishtachraru, or they were freed. Okay, so the assumption is in these 3 cases, might it be a situation where the woman was raped, or the woman was willingly indulged in promiscuity? Okay, tzrichot lahamtin shlosha chodashim. They have to wait the 3 months. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda. This is the view of Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yossi matir la'ares v'linaseh miyad. Rabbi Yossi, however, permitted them to become engaged and to marry immediately. How is that possible? Amar Rava. Says Rava as follows. Ma'itama de Rabbi Yossi. What would be the reasoning that Rabbi Yossi would allow women in these 3 different cases, these statuses, right, to become engaged and marry immediately? Kasavar isha mizana mishameshet b'moch kedei shelo titaber. Okay, interesting statement. Okay, what we see here that Rabbi Yossi, he suggests, is of the opinion that a woman, okay, who is in such a situation, okay, all right, mizana, okay, all right, if the woman is involved in any kind of, let's say, promiscuous activity, she would use a device, I would call it an absorbent. Okay, they used wool as a to prevent becoming pregnant, a birth control, right? Primitive contraceptive, right? Kadei shelo titaber, so that she does not become pregnant. Okay, all right. All right, so Amar le Abaye. All right, so the Abaye now wants to question this explanation of Rabbas. Bishlema Gioret. I understand, says Abaye, in the case of the Gioret. Why? Kevan de da'ata le'iguyure. Because her intent is to convert. Okay? And therefore, minatra nafsha. She guards herself. She protects herself. Why? Kedei lahavchin ben zera shenizra b'kedusha ubein zera shenizra shalom b'kedusha. Okay, between once she's converted, she will have a progeny that are born sanctified in sanctity versus progeny that are not born in a status of sanctity. Okay, so Abaye agrees with him in that case. Second example, Shvuya, okay, regarding the woman who was held a prisoner, okay, or Shifcha, or the Gentile servant. Nami dishame memraihu umintare nefshaihu. Okay, these women would hear what their masters might say. In other words, the one, either the master of the slave girl or the pirates, those who imprisoned them. They would say umintare nafshayo, and they would protect themselves. Okay, ela yotzeit b'shein va'ayin. But however, if we had in other words, the servant girl might protect herself under those circumstances on a normal basis, right? Who would she protect herself from? Theoretically, the master, okay? That she did not, because what's the status of the progeny in that situation? Okay, is the status, right, his? Is the status hers? For him, he's only producing another servant, okay? So that's the question. But the Gemara gives us a insight here, and by saying Ela yotzeit b'shein va'ayin, if this same servant girl was released, was freed because of a situation of shein va'ayin, classical Torah reasoning that if you cause damage to a slave, right, whether it's their eye, whether that's their tooth, whatever, okay, you have to free them. If that's the reason that she's freed, who's to say that under those circumstances she's going to be able to protect herself? What about that? How do we find that situation? And if you want to say kol demimela, okay, in all such circumstances, okay, Modeh Rabbi Yossi, that Rabbi Yossi acknowledges, okay, in those circumstances that nevertheless, okay, there's that potential that she might be involved in promiscuity, but still permit the immediate engagement and marriage. Vahatnan, aren't we taught elsewhere in a Mishnah? Anusa umefuta tzricha lahamtin shlosha chodashim divrei Rebbe Yehuda, that a woman who is raped or seduced, okay, she also must still wait 3 months, according to Rebbe Yehuda. Rebbe Yossi Omer, but Rebbe Yossi in that case, matir liares v'naseh miyad, that in those situations, Rabbi Yossi still says that she is able to become engaged and marry immediately. Okay? So what happens? So Abaye still now responds, Ela Amar Abaye. He says, Abaye, Isha mizana mitapechet shelo titaber. Okay? That Abaye, I guess, I don't know how he knows this, whether it's firsthand or not, but I'm saying it's an interesting concept. What Abaye is saying is a woman who involves herself in any promiscuous act in order not to become pregnant, will change her position. She'll turn over so that her body does not absorb the semen, but that it would theoretically. Thanks for explaining it to me, Bob. Okay.
What did he say?
She stands on her head.
Stands on her head.
Uh-huh. All right. Okay. Ve'idach and Rava. Okay. Chayshin and Shemalom nit apcha yafe yafe. Are we saying then that Rava is suspect that maybe she's not able to turn over adequately enough, okay, so that she does not potentially become pregnant? Okay, that reminds me of the story, Steve, you told yesterday, right? Okay. V'im hayu kohanot. What if they were kohanot? Okay, the girls, exactly. Kohanot, yes. Yisraelot, lo. You're only worried about if they're kohanot and not if they're regular Israelot. Ema, I would say, im hayu nashei kohanim. If they were the wives of Kohanim, Nashei Kohanim and Nashei Yisraelim lo. Again, I ask the question, you're only concerned about the wives of Kohanim, not the wives of Israelites? Okay. V'ha'amar Rav Amram, and did not Rav Amram say, Ha milta amar lan Rav Sheshet. This item was something that we were taught by Rav Sheshet. Okay, va'an harinhu le'ayenan mimatnitin, and others then, right, came back and examined it from our Mishnah. Eishet Yisrael shene'ansa af al pi shemuteret leba'ala psula lekuhuna. Okay, in other words, when he taught this Rav Sheshet, it's sort of this Mishnah sort of literally, it says, opened our eyes, enlightened our eyes. What I think it really means to tell us is it totally surprised us in terms of what his explanation of the Mishnah and clarification was, by saying that a Jewish woman who was raped, okay, may still be permitted to her husband, but is clearly forbidden to a Kohen, right? Amar Rabba, says Rabba now in response, Hachi Kamar, this is what it means to tell us. Im hayu kohanot nisuot liYisrael, if they were kohanot, daughters of Kohanim, and they were married to, their husbands were Israelites, nifsalu min hatruma debein neshayhu, that they would then become ineligible if they had to go back to their homes to eat. In other words, if he did divorce her for whatever, okay, they could not eat truma in the homes of their family, in the homes of their father. Hadrana lach arba'a achi. And so we complete that parak. All right. Okay, as we look at the next, all right, in the next parak, okay, I just want to point out, if you're using Art Scroll, okay, it has sort of a short introduction here on the top of 35b1. If you're using Koren, okay, I don't see Eric this morning, okay, but if you want to look at Koren, they have a much more extensive introduction, okay, on the situation. And basically, I'm only going to point out what happens if you do chalitza in a situation where it's not necessary. What's the status of that woman? Okay, can we think as an introduction to the material? Could she marry somebody that's a Kohen? We've already said in the past that usually if it's chalitza, the Kohen can't marry her, just like he can't marry a Grusha. Okay? But this was Chalitza when it was really by accident, almost unnecessary. So then she's not really permitted Lashuk. She's not really permitted to marry all possible suitors. Okay? That's one concern, right? There may be others. So now as we go into the Gemara, okay, we'll see what it tells us. Okay? And this is again a number of situations. Okay? First example. Okay? Hacholetz liyavamto v'nimtzeit me'uberet. Right? He does chalitza with her, and at the time he discovers she's pregnant. If she's pregnant and the progeny survives, she didn't need the chalitza, right? So again, what's her status, right? So we're going to see here, okay, and to what degree then is chalitza going to be still considered somewhat of a parallel to divorce or not? Right? Let's go on. V'yalda, and this woman gives birth. Bizman sheholad shel kaima, so long as the child, the progeny is viable. Hu mutar bikrovoteha, vehi muteret bikrovav. Right? He is permitted with her relatives, and she is permitted to marry his relatives. So it's not like the situation of Grusha. Okay? Velo pasla mina kuhuna. Not only that, but she is not considered nullified to marry in the Kohen. Ein havlad shel kaima. If the progeny is not viable, hu asur bikrovoteh, he then is forbidden with her relatives. Okay? Vehi asura bikrovav, and she then is forbidden with his relatives. Okay? Upasla min hakuhuna, and then she is disqualified. Thank you. Okay, from marrying a Kohen. Okay? Case number 2. Hakones et yavamto. Okay, one who brings into her household. In other words, he does marry her. V'nimtzeit me'uberet v'yalda, and discovers that she's pregnant. Okay, and she gives birth. All right. So perhaps she waited the 3 months, right? And then, okay, what happens? Bisman shehavlad shel kaima, so long as the progeny is viable, yotzi, he must divorce her. Okay? V'chayvin b'korban, and he must bring, actually each of them must bring a korban chatas in that situation. V'im ein avlad shel kaima, if the progeny does not survive, yikayem, he then may keep her as his wife, right? Because what has he done? He actually committed probably yibum with her, and therefore it was a valid yibum in that situation, if there is no progeny. Okay? Okay. Next case. Safek ben Teisha l'rishon. If there's a situation where we don't know, where the progeny is viable, but we're not sure if it's 9 months from I'll call him the original or the first husband, Safek ben Shiva la'acharon, or whether it's a 7-month birth, okay, from the Yabam or the next husband, right? Yotzi, right? He must divorce her. Vahavlad kasher, but the child is still considered a kosher, appropriate Jew, okay, not a mamzer. V'chayvin ba'asham talui, and they are both then must bring again this case in asham talui. All right.
second husband's child, maybe it's a mom.
You don't know for sure.
We don't know.
But it's maybe.
And what is your attitude? The attitude is you want to limit the status of mamzerut. Okay? So you decide that it's a 7-month birth. Why? Premature. Okay? Through-
It's either the
First husbands or the
child, which
second.
is okay, or
Right.
it's the second
And by the way, through what, Erwin?
It's really his child. It's a 7-month baby, not a 9-month baby.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean, but we don't know.
right.
So why should he be forced to divorce her? for not
Because
sure?
it's a suffix. Maybe we
It's
don't
a
know.
suffix. We don't know.
Right.
But in this
Why
case,
would
you
DNA test it with
today you would, but then you didn't. Okay?
brothers?
Don't know. Remember, by the way, that throughout the Gemara, we're going to see, or we have seen, okay, that they had an interesting attitude that a 7-month premature infant generally would be a viable, could very well be a viable birth. An 8th month, for whatever reason, was not as viable. Okay? Why that's the case, I'm not sure. I didn't, by the way, I looked for Talmudology on yesterday's daf. He had something on Pesach, not on the issue of what was going on there. Okay, let's go on now. Gemara, Itmar, about this it was said, Hacholetz lemeuberet vihipila. Okay, what about one who did chalitza to a pregnant woman and then she had a miscarriage? What happens? Rabbi Yochanan Amar, Einat tzricha chalitza min ha'achim, that she does not require chalitza from any of the other brothers. Reish Lakish Amar, says Reish Lakish, tzricha chalitza min ha'achim. She does need chalitza then from other brothers. Rabbi Yochanan Amar, he says, Ein tzricha chalitza min ha'achim. She doesn't need it. Why? Chalitzat me'uberet shma chalitza. That chalitza with a pregnant woman is a valid chalitza. Ubiyat me'uberet shma biyah. And relations with a pregnant woman is still considered valid relations. V'reish Lakish Amar, tzricha chalitza min ha'achim. That she does require chalitza from the other brothers. Chalitzat me'uberet, lo shma chalitza. That chalitza with a pregnant woman is not considered a valid chalitza because you don't know what the result is going to be while she's still pregnant. Okay? If she has a ben kaima, okay, then it's a inappropriate. Ubiyat me'uberet, lo shma biyah. And the relations with a pregnant woman is not considered, in that case, valid yibum. What are they arguing about? Ibayat ema. I might have said kra, that they're arguing about the understanding of the pasuk. V'ibayat ema svara. Or I might say they're arguing about logic. And we're going to see the Gemara is going to address both situations. Let's go. Starting off, by the way, I've always sometimes referred to the fact that the Gemara use a chiastic, A, B, B, A. So since it said the pasuk first and the svara next, what happens? Rabbi Yochanan Savar. So it explores the svara opportunity first, and then it will come back to the pasuk. Okay? Rabbi Yochanan Savar says as follows: Im yavo Eliyahu v'yomar daha di'abra mapuli mapala. Okay? If Elijah is going to come, so to speak, and predict that this pregnant woman is going to have a miscarriage, mi lav bat chalitza v'yibumhi, wouldn't she still then be in the status that she would require either chalitza or yibum. Okay, hashta nami tagle milta lemafreya. Here too, in this case, then we have a retroactive discovery of the situation. Okay, that's his argument from logic. Varesh Lakish Amai says, what happens? Tagle milta lemafreya lo amrinan. We don't say, says Reish Lakish, that we hold by a retroactive discovery of the situation. Okay, next case. Vi bayit ema kra. Okay, or I said, maybe they're arguing about the pasuk. And here we're going to explore it. Okay, Rabbi Yochanan Savar, okay, the pasuk says, Ubain ein lo, that the deceased husband did not have progeny. Amar Rachmana, that's what the Torah says. Vaha lidle, and he doesn't have any, right? Reish Lakish, right, responds with Savar, Ubain ein lo, when it says that he doesn't have a progeny, Iyain alav. We must examine that situation. In other words, wait and see, okay, what happens. Eitive Rabbi Yochanan l'Reish Lakish. And so Rabbi Yochanan replies and says to Reish Lakish, Ein havlad shel kaima. If the no progeny is not existent, hu asur b'krovoteha. Our Mishnah clearly said, then he is forbidden with her relatives. Vehi asura b'krovav, and she is forbidden to his relatives. Upasla min hakuna, and she is deferred, right, from any marriage to a kohen. Bishlema ledidi, that's acceptable according to my view. Da'amina chalitzat me'uberet shma chalitza. That I believe that a chalitza for a pregnant woman is a valid chalitza. Mishum hachi pasla. And therefore that's the reason that she would become unavailable for Kohen. Eladidach. But according to your view, Reish Lakish, the amarta chalitzat me'uberet lo shma chalitza, that you say that that is not a valid chalitza, amai pasla mina kohana. Why then should she be not viable for kohanim? Amarle, Reish Lakish responds, Mid the Rabbanan. We're saying it's regarding the rabbinical. Ulechumra ba'alma, and it's going to be a stringency in general. Okay, so what happens? Ikeda amre, and there are those that say, Etive Reish Lakish l'Rabbi Yochanan, that it was Reish Lakish who challenged Rabbi Yochanan. Namely, Ein Havlad Shel Kaima. Our same Mishnah said, if the progeny is not viable, right? Hu asur b'krovoteha, vehi asura b'krovav. Okay, he is forbidden with her relatives, and she is forbidden to his relatives. Upasla min hakuhuna, and she is unavailable for kohanim. Bishlema ledidi, says Reish Lakish. That's all right according to my view. Da'amina chalitzat mu'uberet lo shma chalitza. Because I say that the chalitza for a pregnant woman is not a valid chalitza. Hainu dikatani pasla mina kuhuna lechumra. Okay? Velo katani. Okay? This is why they teach that she is forbidden to kohanim, okay, as a stringency. Velo katani, but they don't teach einat tzricha chalitza min ha'achim, but they doesn't teach that she does not need chalitza from the brothers. Ella.
When they have these stringencies, could it be permitted in any case?
Question. Good question. Ella rather, says the Gemara, or really this is coming back, L'didach, if this is Reish Lakish challenging Rabbi Yochanan, but according to your view, Einat tzricha chalitza min ha'achim mibayele. The fact that it says that she doesn't need chalitza from the brothers, mibayele, that should have been included in the Mishnah. It should have been spelled out there expressly. Amarle. So Rabbi Yochanan responds, Hachanami here too. Va'ide detana reisha lo pasla. Since taught at the beginning that it did not negate her, let's use that word. Tana seifa pasla. Therefore, it taught at the end that it does negate her. What happens? Eitive Rabbi Yochanan l'Rav Reish Lakish. So now Rabbi Yochanan comes back to Reish Lakish. Ein havlad shel karma. If we say the progeny is not viable, yikayem. Our Mishnah said, right, that he can maintain her, right, keep her in marriage. Bishlema ledidi. That's acceptable to my view. Da'amina chalitzat me'uberet shma chalitza. Ubiyat me'uberet shma biyah. Because I say chalitza for a pregnant woman is a valid chalitza, and biyah with a pregnant woman is a valid biyah, and therefore a valid yibum. Mishum hachi katani yikayem. Because of that reason, they say he may maintain her. He can continue to be married to her. Ela ledidach. But according to your view, Reish Lakish, the amarta chalitza me'uberet lo shma chalitza ubiyat me'uberet lo shma biyah, that there's no chalitza and no yibum there, yachzor v'yiv'al v'yikayem me'bayile. Then our Mishnah should have said, in that case, he should go back and have relations with her, and therefore fulfill the requirement of yibum, and then he can maintain her as his wife. That's what it should have included in our Mishnah. So the Gemara says, coming back by Reish Lakish, Ma'i Kayem, what does it mean that he can maintain her? Yachzor v'yivol v'yikayem delo sagi. Namely, what it's telling us, maintain her means he can go back, have relations with her, keep her as his wife, okay, delo sagi, and that's what's not the issue. That's not the point. Okay, Ika da'amre, and there are those, however, who say, excuse me, as follows: Eitive Reish Lakish l'Rabbi Yochanan. That Rabbi Lakish responded to Rabbi Yochanan the following: Ein havlad shel kaima. If the child is not viable, yikayem. When it says maintain her, bishlema ledidi. That's acceptable to my view. Da'amina chalitzat mu'uberet lo shma chalitza, ubiat mu'uberet lo shma biyah. That there's no chalitza and no biyah. Hainu dikatani yikayem. That's why they teach then that he maintains her, namely yachzor v'yivol v'yikayem, that he goes back and has relations with her and then maintains her. Delo sagi belav hachi, that it's not sufficient without that. Ela ledidach, but according to your view, Rabbi Yochanan, Ratzah yotzi, Ratzah yikayem. If he wants, he can divorce her. If he wants, he could keep her. Mebayele. That's what should have been required and written into the Mishnah. Okay. En hachinami. Indeed, that's the case. It says, Aide detana reisha yotzi, since it talks at the first part to divorce her. Tananami sefer yikayem. It also taught at the end that he can maintain her. Meitive. But we'll challenge this with the following statement. A braita. Hakoneset yevamto, one who marries his Yavama, v'nimtzeit me'uberet, and discovers she's pregnant. Harei zo lo tinaseh sarata. He may not marry, okay, the co-wife. Shema yehe Vlad ben Kaima, lest the child or the progeny be existent. So the Gemara says, hold on, Adrabah, maybe it's the opposite. Ki hava havlad ben Kaima, miftarat sarata. If the child is a valid child, shouldn't that release the co-wife? Right? Ela ema, but I would say, Shema lo yehe havlad ben Kaima. Maybe the progeny won't be existent. V'isal gadata, and if you're going to say, biat me'uberet shma bia, that relations with a pregnant woman is valid bia, and therefore a valid yibum, amai lo tinaseh tzarata. Why should he not be able to marry the co-wife? Tipater b'bia shel chaverta. She should be exempt as a result of the relations of the bia with her colleague, so to speak, with the other wife. Amar Abaye, Babia kuli alma lo plige de lo pra. Okay, with regards to bia, everybody doesn't disagree that she's not exempted. Ki pligi bechalitza, but what they're arguing is the situation of chalitza, namely Rabbi Yochanan Savar. Rabbi Yochanan holds chalitzat me'uberet shma chalitza, biat me'uberet lo shma bia. That in this case, Rabbi Yochanan holds the chalitza with a pregnant woman is a valid chalitza, but relations with the pregnant woman is not. Okay, valid relations. It's not a real evil. Reish Lakish Savar biat me'uberet lo shma bia, that Reish Lakish holds that relations with the pregnant woman is not bia. V'chalitza me'uberet lo shma chalitza, and chalitza with the pregnant woman also is not considered chalitza. What happens? Amar le Rava. Rava raises the question. Manafshach. Either way, he says. I biat me'uberet shma bia. Okay, if bia is with the pregnant woman is a valid bia, chalitzat me'uberet shma chalitza, then the chalitza with the pregnant woman also has to be a valid chalitza. Ve'i biat me'uberet lo shma chalitza, and if the relations with the pregnant woman is not considered a valid bia and therefore not valid yibum, chalitza me'uberet nami lo shma chalitza, then the chalitza in that case also would not be a valid chalitza. Daha kaimalan, because what do we hold? The kol ha'oleh liyibum oleh lechalitza. V'chol she'en oleh liyibum eino oleh lechalitza. Okay? If one works, the other works, basically. And that's where we'll stop right there. Okay? Okay. So, all right, everybody have a good day.
If a man had children, but a
He has. Still had. Okay, everybody there, okay?
What time do you need? Yep, yeah, she might be the same height. You might got the same flight. Yeah, we're going United also. Except my wife. Where are you going? We're going to share. Sure.